What's up, MMA fans? This is my first prediction video in quite a while, so forgive me if I'm a little rusty, but I think it should be okay. This is a good card. I think all 5 fights on the main card are going to be, they have intrigue for several reasons. This is the second installment of guys coming over from, actually not the second installment, this will be like the third card we've seen the WEC infusion into the UFC divisions. Of course, Silva owns the WEC, so they can do that. I personally think it should have been done a long time ago. I really don't even think the WEC should have a 155-pound weight class. Varner, Cerrone, they're good fighters, but I think they offer more depth and more, there's much more competition in that weight class in the UFC for them, as opposed to in the WEC, where you're going to get to the point where you can only match up McCullough, Cerrone, and Varner, and throw in whoever else you want. Hicks. There's only so many times you can match those 4 guys up until they'll eventually end up in the UFC anyway. But nevertheless, Steve Cantwell, his second fight in the UFC against Kane. This fight, to be honest with you, I like Cantwell a lot. You saw the improvement in the second time he fought Stan, who's also on this card. His striking was tighter. He was more fluid. He kept his chin down. Stan was just more easy to hit because of the changes he made in his game, and Cantwell won that fight via knockout. But Kane, I think, is just a different animal. He's a big 205er. Never really been in trouble in any of the fights I've ever seen him in. That's, even the Irvin fight, the Lambert fight, the Soszynski fight, he was just kind of methodical, kind of just walked through whatever came his way and just methodically just broke his guy down, and ended up stopping 2 out of those guys. I think lost to Irvin because of a disqualification or something like that. But I picked Kane to win this fight. I think he's a bigger guy in this fight. He's just as good a striker. I think he's a little heavier handed. His ground game is just as good, if not better. His Cantwell's first time on the big stage, UFC pay-per-view, and this Kane's fourth go around. So any way Kane wins this fight, any way he wants to, he wins it. Probably think he stops Cantwell in the late first or second round. Hits him with a big shot on the feet, jumps on him while he's on the ground and pounds him out. Now on to the next fight, which is a fight that the matchup I love, and it's a matchup I've been calling for a long time. I don't know, stylistically I think they match up great if they choose to keep it a classic, striking match. If these guys decide to clinch and try to take it to the ground, it could turn into a bore fest. But Congo against Anthony Hardonk, and this is a similar fight to, if they choose to keep it standing in the 170-pound weight class. Granted, if these 2 guys win their next fight, I think they should match up Anthony Johnson and Ben Saunders. I think their body styles, I just think that in terms of a striking match, it would be phenomenal. It'd be a phenomenal match on the feet, and I think that they should definitely match those 2 guys up ASAP. But anyway, Congo, Hardonk. Both rangy strikers. I think Congo's takedown defense is a little better than Hardonk's. I don't think Hardonk's going to look to take this fight to the ground. I think Hardonk's submissions are a little better. I think I've seen him try a few submissions on the ground. I've never seen Congo try a submission, to be honest with you. I've seen him kind of get put on the ground and just kind of look like a fish out of water against better ground guys. Carmelo Morero was a guy who just stalemated him on the ground, just kind of held him down. Herring just kind of held him there. If Herring would have been allowed to use the knees, and like he did in Pride, he would have been over. But he won a decision. But Congo has become a little bit of a dirty fighter, in my opinion. His last going back to the Crow Cop fight, he's just really been kneeing guys below the belt a lot lately, and he kind of does it with some maliciousness. I know he got kneed by Mustafa first, but then the knee he threw was just dead on, right to the package, and it was just, no doubt in my mind, he intended to do it. But in the Crow Cop fight, he did it like 2 or 3 times. I think he was warned once. But anyway, I'm gonna pick the upset. I'm gonna pick Hardonk. I think Hardonk, his striking is cleaner. It's more, it's tighter. It's more straight down the middle. Where Congo's holds his hands a little wider. I think Hardonk's leg kicks are a lot heavier. He has probably the most technical, some of the most technical leg kicks in all of the sport. I think he'll make Congo want to take this fight to the ground. And I saw Congo get rocked before against Heath Herring, and Herring's not the striker that Hardonk is. Better MMA fighter, but not the striker. So I pick Hardonk to win this fight, probably by KO. KO stoppage in the second round. My little upset for this one. Congo hasn't fought a striker since like this since Krokop, but I think that Hardonk brings that size and that ranginess that Krokop didn't. So should be a good fight, but I pick Hardonk. On to the next one, Krzysztof Soszynski against Brian Stann, the next guy to come over from the WEC. He was supposed to rematch, have his third fight with Cantuwell back at the Fight for the Troops, but he wasn't able to compete. Fights Krzysztof Soszynski first in UFC. I think Soszynski is just I think it's a case where he hasn't fought the level of competition Soszynski has. I think Soszynski's been in there with even heavyweights like Rothwell a couple of times, Dan Christensen. He's able to beat Christensen. I think he's just a naturally bigger guy. Probably a little bit heavier handed, hits a little bit harder. Never seen Stan have to go to the ground. I think Krzysztof's ground game might be even a little bit better than Stan's. Stan also likes to, in his stand-up, if you notice, that his chin is up a lot of the time. And he's got a big chin, and he just kind of holds it out there sometimes. And I think if Krzysztof hits him with a big shot, he could knock him out. But I picked Krzysztof to win this fight. I think it's going to be a good fight, a hard-fought fight. And probably end up going into the late second, third, before it gets stopped by Krzysztof Soszynski. Probably a submission or a ground and pound. Now, the next two fights, co-main event, main event, Chuck the Iceman Liddell against Mauricio Shogun Hua. And this is definitely, we've used this term a lot, a crossroads fight. This is definitely a crossroads fight. Shogun, obviously, I think has more time left in the sport than Liddell. It's just the nature of the beast. Guys will lose fights in this sport. Shogun did get a lot of criticism in his last fight. He hadn't fought for over a year and a half. The knee surgeries, the cardio came into play. I think he was probably very cautious and careful of how he trained his cardio. Probably didn't want to roll as much. Probably didn't want to go as hard in sparring, fearing that the knee would give out again. But hopefully he's tested it. Hopefully it's as close to 100% as it can be for this fight. Even though he was able to beat Mark Holman, he was able to knock him out. If he would have had a little bit more gas in the first, he probably could have finished him. But I think he tried to pace himself a little too much. But fighting Chuck Liddell, who's 1-3 in his last 4 fights. The one win was a hard-fought battle against Wanderlei Silva. The rest was an upset loss to Keith Jardine. Lost the title to Rampage. He was knocked out, and he was just one-hitter quitter against Rashad Evans in a fashion we've never seen Liddell get stopped before. So in a way that he lost that fight, it's going to be interesting to see a fighter at his age, as dominant as he was for as long as he was, to mentally come back from a loss like that. I mean, he had been stopped before via ground and pound. He had to, but that loss was definitely a loss that, this fight, he either, extends his career or he goes 1-4 in his last 5, and I think it would be better for Chuck at that point to move on. He did go to American Top Team to change his training, which was something he should have done a long time ago. No matter where he went, I think he should have definitely changed his training up, gotten away from the pit, and just broadened his horizons. Okay, on to the fight. Chuck, I don't know. I don't know if it's too late for him in terms of changing his training, though. Teaching an old dog new tricks is kind of hard, and I think that's what's made Randy Couture so special. as old as he is, he's always managed to change his game, like add little things, and older fighters tend to kind of regress and stick to more what they know rather than add. So I think if in trouble, he'll definitely just look for the big shot. He's kind of abandoned his kicks in this point in his career. He has thrown here and there in his last couple of fights. He tried to kick Rashad in the head with a good one at the end of the first in his last fight, but he just missed right at the end of the first round. Shogun, he brings the kicks, and on top of his game, he's as versatile a striker as there is. He's definitely a better ground fighter than Liddell in terms of his submissions. He's very, I think he's got a much underrated ground game. It's a hard fight to call. 2 years ago, this would have been a huge fight, would have been a main event. The two best, it would have been the two best light heavyweights in the world fighting each other. Now it's kind of like, where do these guys go? I'm going to pick Shogun in this fight. I think Shogun has a lot more time left in the sport. Liddell's, the chinks in the armor have started to mount up. I think Shogun's striking is a lot more technical. Chuck's chin's been checked. And once a guy gets knocked out at that late date, they kind of tend to get knocked out a little easier. Similar to like Roy Jones in boxing, you know, once he got knocked out, it just kind of steamrolled into more knockouts, and I think that's what will happen again. I'm going to pick Shogun via knockout in this fight, probably in the second round. Chuck does have cardio issues too. If you can't knock a guy out in the first, he kind of wanes a little bit as the rounds go on. Doesn't have as much steam behind his punches. So I picked Shogun to win this fight, stoppage in the second round. On to the next fight, Anderson Silva against Leites. I think Anderson in this fight honestly should be fighting Yushin Okami. He should have fought Okami in his last couple of fights, but Okami was hurt. He had to fight Kote in a fight where Anderson just didn't look like he wanted to fight. Kote kind of came out and just buckled his knee and the fight was stopped, but he fights Leites here. He comes off a win against Nate Marquardt in a fight. You know, Nate Marquardt won, but just had points deducted repeatedly and cost him the fight. Even with the points, if he still should have won the fight, I think, the way he beat down Leites in that fight. But Anderson is just too good on the feet. He's probably a better grappler than Leites, I think. His submissions are probably just as good. I don't know if he can get Anderson to the ground. I doubt it. Anderson can keep the distance and just pick Leites apart. He'll probably do that. Leites holds his chin out there pretty high, and I see this probably ending in a big time knockout in the first round for Anderson Silva. I think he's Anderson Silva. His striking is just too good for Leites to handle on the feet, and Anderson will just, once he finds his range, he'll just start throwing him kicks, whatever, punches. They're just going to come punches and bunches, kicks and punches, and just, it's going to be over first, if not early second. Alright guys, you guys have a good one. Take care. I hope you enjoyed the predictions. Some pretty decent undercards. Hopefully we'll get to see hopefully Stout and Wyman should be a good fight. Herman and Loazo. Let's see what Loazo has. I mean, this is a guy who fought for a UFC championship a few years back, and now he's kind of just, regressed into obscurity. Kane, let's see how he does in his second fight in the UFC. And got McDonald and Nate Quarry. That should be a good fight. Until then, you guys have a good one, and take care.